Hi guys, it's Chris at the Ultimate Recycler. This is the back area outside my shop. It used to be a nice barbecue area, and I've cleaned it up a little bit so that I've got a bench to work under a shady tree when I'm scrapping on a hot day. But this is going to be part 6 of my great yard cleanup. I know I keep jumping from one spot to another. Sorry about the wind noise. I wanted to get started on this today and I can't do much about the wind. So yeah, I've been starting in various spots in my yard and kind of not getting back to them, but eventually all the clean spots will join up and we will have a nice neat yard. This area, I've just got a little storage shed there. Lots of stuff gets piled up out here when I don't have room inside or don't have time to deal with it, and I turn buckets upside down over things to keep them from being, keep them dry. They're forecasting more rain again this evening, but I thought I might make a start. And my plan for this area is that I want to keep these workbenches in the middle here. I've got some nice fake grass. Do you like that? Beautiful to maintain. In fact, half the time it gets covered in leaves. Anyway, I'm keeping this old Singer. It's not a Singer, it's a Wertheim sewing machine base with a nice marble top and an old picnic table type outdoor table with a piece of carpet over it. They're great workbenches for me to work out here. So I'm going to keep them, but what I want to do with the rest of the spot is, particularly along this fence here, I want to neaten it up and I want to build a bit of a rack out of old timber, and I'm going to use the base of some of the mattresses that I've wrecked and maybe some pallet timber. And I just want to make a bit of a rack where I can put pot plants. Now, not just for my gardening purposes, but we repot plants from home, we repot strawberries, and we sell them through the shop. So I want somewhere out of direct sun where I can easily access them to water them, and they can grow happily until they're ready to be sold. I've got some maidenhair ferns in pots that have been seriously neglected. That one looks dead, but I think they're pretty resilient plants, so they may come back to life. And I can repot them in pots. You can see there's a nice, I'm not sure what that one is over there. I know we have some clivia here somewhere. I've repotted various things that I can sell. When we clean up house lots, we get lots of pot plants and we get empty pots, so it makes sense to make a few extra dollars out of it. Most of you have probably seen this if you watch my channel. It's a vertical pallet herb garden, or in this case a strawberry garden. So we clip the runners off the strawberries and pot them and sell them, and we get $3 each. Great way to use up old pots, gives us some extra cash. But I do need an area where I can keep them all neat. A bit of a double tier bench perhaps here. It'll look nicer, it'll be easier to water them regularly. They won't get cooked in the hot Australian sun. So that's my plan at this stage. I'll hop to it and I'll give you a few updates as I go. So I've moved all the stuff from the fence, trying to get rid of all these leaves. They pile up here. There's going on my compost bin. I did see a bit of wildlife. This little fella was crawling along. I made sure he was safe and put him under a rock. So I finished cleaning up along here, and then we'll try and nut out how we're going to build this thing. Alright, after numerous coffees and sort of sitting around scratching my head, I decided I'm probably better just to lay the frame here. This is the frame of a mattress base. Just to lay it down resting on that back concrete skirt that's part of the existing fence, and just chock it under the front with bricks. In fact, that one there isn't a brick, it's the concrete counterweight out of a washing machine. So I do like to use everything I can. May as well be a brick, it's the same purpose. I did screw a heavier piece of timber, the ones that you saw stacked in the fence. It's going to give this a lot more strength, because obviously pot plants weigh a bit, and if I have quite a lot on here, it's going to need that strength across the front, or it'll bow. So you can see what I've done there. And I think it's going to work quite well. I'll just build a bit of a frame up and put another bed frame up higher, and I might even do a third one, just depending how it's going and how sort of rigid it is. I haven't worried about a spirit level. One thing I find with spirit levels is that it's pretty pointless getting your project absolutely perfectly level when nothing else in your surroundings is perfectly level. No guarantees this fence is level, I'm not even going to check it. But the bottom line is, build it so it looks nice. If it looks like it's lined up, all good. Pointless having your little construction project level and it looks terrible because nothing else is level. So anyway, I'll keep building. I'll put a bit of a support each end, and I'll have to do the same on the back corners, and then secure another level. I'll have to anchor it to the fence so that it doesn't sort of start to lean, but hopefully it'll end up being a nice pot plant growing rack. I'll probably put some extra boards across it. Obviously small pot plants are going to fall through there. I might just use some pellet timber and roughly line it, and it should look quite neat when it's finished. Alright, the building's progressing quite well. I've decided the second layer level can be 2 milk crates high. It seems to give me enough space, and I've put an upright there which will allow me enough room for a third tier. So all I've done is this second level I've also got a decent beam of old timber running along it to support the weight, and I've let it in a little bit here, and I'll do the same the other end, so that it lines up in the corner at the bottom. And also I'm going to use these old wire frames that I've had laying around my yard for a couple of years. There's 4 of them, and I thought they'll be handy for something one day, and that day has come. They'll be perfect, I think, to give extra shelf support on here. I'll probably still line the bottom one with timber, but the next level, and if I do a top level, we'll need to allow some light to come through. If we lined them all with timber, it'd be too dark for the plants, so the wire mesh should work well and it'll be nice and strong. So to enable them to fit, I've just had to notch out that other end, as you can see, and I've also going to notch a little bit out this end, and then we'll bolt the support in this corner. Now I'm putting this frame together just with these old coach bolts. Ironically, these are actually out of old beds, some early beds that I've taken apart for the nice Oregon timber, used these old bolts in the frames, so they'll be ideal to put into this stand and hold it together. Those of you who don't know what a coach bolt is, they have a square section just under the head, which if you have the right size hole, will hammer into the timber, and it will hold in the timber so that you can do the nut up the other end and the head of the bolt won't turn. So we'll just tap this home, and that's fine, and our bolt should be just the right length. So that's got the front supports up and secure. The back's still resting on the milk crates because I don't want to put the last supports up until I get this third level up. So I'll put that up there. I'll grab a couple more or 4 more milk crates, and then I can kind of build around them. My building jobs are, let's just say they lack a bit of planning sometimes. I kind of prefer to just build as I go, inspired by whatever I trip over, and use what I can. And it's a whole series of minor problem solving, but I enjoy it, and the items normally come together quite well. So I'll round up a few more milk crates and we'll get the next layer up. There we go, 3rd floor in position. So now I still have to put a rail across the front to stop it bowing, but it's about the height I want it. So I've got a double milk crate width on each level, which should give me plenty of room for a decent plant. And so I'll attach the top rail and bolt the 2 front stays all together now, and then I'll feed some back rails which I've cut to length down through, and I might have to pack them in various spots because these bed bases are slightly different sizes, and that should secure it all. Then I'll tie it back to the fence and we can put some wire mesh over it and then line the bottom, and she's done. So now I have the frame all bolted together. It's coming up really well. I'm very happy with this. It hasn't taken too long, and this is the sort of bush carpentry that I really enjoy. You don't need to be too particular. It's just a matter of drilling, bolting and adjusting when you need to. Now I've built this thing exactly in position, although at the moment it's still technically freestanding. It doesn't actually attach to the fence, and it does wobble a little bit, but structurally it doesn't seem to twist at all. It's quite sturdy. So all I really need to do now is just tie it back to the fence to keep it stable. And I've got some pieces of pine here, again from a bed frame. I use bed frames all the time. And all I'm going to do is sit that across the top and tie it back to the fence rail there, and that'll give the whole thing some stability. It'll actually kind of finish it off, and if ever the fence needs to be replaced, which it probably will be at some stage, it has got a bit of a lean to it, it'll be really easy just to disconnect this stand and rebuild the fence. So there we go. I'll just put those stays on and we can put some wire down and put the pot plants on it. Stays are on the top, tying it back to the fence with some screws. Wire frames in position. They fit nice and snugly. You'd have to make one little adjustment. Either the steel frame's out of square or my building moved a little bit. So I just had to notch out a little bit on that rail, but that's pretty good. Like I said, my building always involves adjustments. So there we go. Where are those pot plants? And we're all finished. Now it holds my sad collection of little pot plants, but I'm sure they'll absolutely thrive now that they're in a spot where they'll be out of the full Australian sun. They're forecasting 43 degrees again in a couple of days. Nice shady area, a little bit of dappling sun through the middle of the day. A spot where I can water them all at once, and when they're ready to be sold or looking at their prime, we'll put them out the front of the shop. Strawberries look like they seriously need a drink now. I think those ones are Clivia, and the ones down the bottom orchids. I'm not sure what sort, but basically, I don't know what was in those. I think they've long since turned their toes up, but I'm really pleased now to have this area organised. Eventually I may open this backyard part up as far as my shop goes, in which case we can sell plants directly off this stand. But it's made use of a lot of stuff I've had lying around the yard that will be handy one day, and it finally was. All this stuff has come from, as I've mentioned, old bed frames, or the bolts were out of various frames and things. I just saved them because they'll be handy. As I've said, the wire frames, I'm not sure what they were made for, but they were too good to throw in the scrap, and they've absolutely got a perfect use now. There'll be plenty of light get through the shelves. I decided against lining the bottom with boards because I had enough of these wire brackets anyway. The top shelf has just got various pieces of mesh, and they'll be fine for pot plants up there. So no materials were purchased for this job, which I'm pleased with. It's upcycled 3 mattress bed base frames, and the timber was from various other beds, and some of it had been used for concrete boxing, and it's made a really nice little stand. The only items that were actually not second-hand were some screws, but I didn't actually buy these new. They came out of someone's shed I cleaned out, so I haven't spent a cent in doing this job, and it's neatened up a little part of my yard. Not much in this part. This video has actually happened with regards to my great yard cleanup. As you can see, it kind of all just got pushed to one side while I'm doing this job. But now I have a place to assemble all the pot plants, and this part of the yard is neat and organised. Alright, thanks for watching. We'll look out for my next video. It could be a worm test, it could be a scrapping job, it could be another part of cleaning up my yard, it could be an upcycling project. I've got so many ideas happening now, but feel free to add more if you'd like me to try something, and we'll hop to it. Catch you later.